Hello and welcome back to the Morningscape podcast. I am your host, DJ Mitchell, here with Matt, Nathan, McKinnon, Hader, Moody. Matt, how are you doing on this beautiful, lovely 50-degree day here in Buffalo, Wednesday night as we record?
Never a bad day to fade Chalk McKinnon. Finally got paid out last night for it.
Yeah, tell us. Yes, go. Yes, please. Victory lap. We need it.
There's certainly no victory lapping to be had. Because my best team finished in third on the late slate with McKinnon. Like, that's where most of the money came from with Anaheim 3, the kid line. But Dallas did enough on the main slate for me to min cash and whatnot. So it was a pretty good night. I also decided to just not bet anything, and turns out I didn't lose my winnings betting, and feels pretty good. So I will leave you to the degenerate betting side of DraftKings.
Yep. It was all chocolates and rainbows and unicorns for me. And then Nutushkin, I was like, oh, that's 3. He had the breakaway. And then I was like, wait, was that only 2? It was like, he did 2 breakaway shots, and then he just never got another one. I was like, oh, great. Slate's over for me. I lose money. Alas, tough break. Well, I mean, it was like basically a break even because the other bets were a couple plus money. It was really the fact that DFS was completely and totally in shambles by playing Elvis versus Lincoln's. He actually didn't completely kill me with 7 points, but yikes. Not what I needed out of him to get it done.
Yeah, if Tampa scores, 4 goals instead of 6, I'm probably, sitting pretty close to first because I didn't play Tampa. And Tampa I'm pretty sure was on every team ahead of me.
Now that I thought I was going to get 65 points, I definitely got more than 65 points, but I don't even know what I finished with, honestly. I played, in case you're wondering what didn't win, I threw together the exactly what I said, Philadelphia plus New Jersey lineup for 90. I mean, again, not that close to cashing. Probably wasn't getting there even with a goalie that was good, but yeah, definitely didn't get there with a goalie that was terrible. Close no cigar.
Yeah, the Darren Radish donkeys got paid out. He even got moved off the top power play. Doesn't matter. Just play bad, win every time.
Wait, did Sissima play him?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Sissima didn't do anything last night. But he was 20% owned, so he was he's on. I finished 14th in the barn bash, which again slightly better than the min cash, but every team ahead of me except for Saul, who had a Sharks team that just giga slammed in the Sharks and print cash. Every other team had at least Radish, and most of them had the Kucherov Gensel duo that went for 70 combined. So anyway, it was good. It was a good night. No complaints here. This Thursday slate is going to get wacky. It's already kind of weird because of trades that have happened on Wednesday here, and I bet we see at least a couple more, if not the full send of the trade deadline. So yeah, I mean, this podcast, not saying not to listen to it, but make sure that you are being dynamic and updating your assumptions and whatnot, because there'll be a lot changing, and a lot of it will change very quickly, I think, on Thursday. So anyway, anything else you want to discuss before we get on into things?
No, let's get on into things. So we have a lot of games. The first one on the DraftKings docket is Utah at Detroit, a matchup that, I mean, truly, I don't remember ever seeing, but I'm guessing we've seen it once. This would be the second time ever, is my assumption. We kind of went over why Detroit, there were some interesting pieces, but it kind of felt like a tough to actually play a ton of. DeBrincat was good, but the only goal scorer they had was my favorite player, Elmer Soderblom. They're in a great matchup coming off of what was disappointing, although I don't think anyone played Detroit against Carolina. They certainly weren't popular. I don't think they're going to get overlooked here by any stretch of the imagination. There's only a few players, a small handful that you'd want to click on. Kane, DeBrincat, and then Raymond Larkin. There's, a line mate on either side that's really cheap in Comfer and getting more expensive in Casper for 5-on-5. Simone Edvinsson and Sider have been very, very good. They're not paired together. So I would be maybe minorly mindful of what that would look like, but it's a great matchup for them. Oh, they're home. Crap, I thought they were on the
I'm not
road.
even
We
sure who
should
the
have
hell you're
started with
talking
Utah.
about. Wait, what?
Oh, I'm talking about Detroit. I thought they were on the road, honestly, and I just realized they're
You're
home.
talking about Detroit having a good matchup here? Interesting. Okay.
I think the matchup honestly is probably good on either side, and it's a 5.5, like closer to the over at -135, but it's a dead pick 'em. Like I really don't think this game's going to be piled. I mean, yeah, both sides are good. I think. I guess Utah showing up as really good. I think this game is good. Is more maybe the point I'm trying to make.
No,
I guess you
Utah
could,
looks
and like
tremendously better than Detroit based on the rainbow. I understand where you're coming from, at home and whatnot, but of course Detroit's production has come through their power play. The lines in Detroit are just completely fucked. We'll get to them, but I mean, it just seems like we've been off for literally 24 hours, and you're just like, actually, I have no idea how we'd normally progress through the show. So on the Utah side, no changes. I guess Jack McBain on the power play is technically a change, but Kerfoot alongside Hayton and Gunther was, I think, a couple games ago. That stuck. And then Michelli is likely to be the healthy scratch again. Sure, whatever. The main guys, Hayton, Gunther, Keller, and I guess Schmaltz. But Sergachev defensively is sub 5K. That's certainly an option. Keller has been absolutely chucking. Gunther's always been chucking, but Keller's shot numbers over the last 10 are some of the best across the entire league. And he's only 6,400. So Utah in general looks really solid. Anything in particular you want to call out here, or do you want to get to Detroit?
I mean, I basically already covered Detroit as much as I wanted to. It's like, but I guess the point I was going to transition to for the Utah is it kind of feels like the Spider-Man meme of them pointing to each other, being like, that's kind of the same, where it's like we have this like one dynamic. Again, you could argue who's better between Keller and Larkin, right? And this sort of like, this is the top line. We have Larkin, we have Keller, we have a one line mate that goes along with them. I think Raymond's obviously a little bit better of a goal scorer than Schmaltz, but like makes a lot of sense. You have the other side, you have this, dynamic Gunther who, and just frankly, like we said, DeBrincat on the other side is becoming a dynamic shooter that's scoring goals, and a center and Hayton and a Patrick Kane on the other side to go along with it. Like it just feels very concentrated in how you could stack this game to success on either side. So yeah, I don't have a problem with any of it. I don't know if there's a complete and total standout on Utah that I'm like, that's obviously the way to do it. I'd almost be convinced to maybe cross lines a little bit here and go with like a 4-man with Sergachev, Keller, Peyton, Gunther, something in that nature.
Yeah, no problems crossing lines or anything. I just think the pricing on Utah hasn't. I don't know. I'm pretty sure when we look across the entire slate, we're gonna see that pricing is a little bit more back in order. Just clicking through, looking at some of the top tier players and whatever, it doesn't seem like there's like that mid tier like disappearance like it was a few weeks ago, or Jesus, not a few weeks ago, like a week ago it was. But even that considered, Keller, Gunther seem really cheap, and Barrett Hayton continues to put up just nuclear numbers for a guy who is sub 5K. 4,400 for Barrett Hayton. He's going to look pretty solid. I do think that a 5.5 pick'em, like it's not going to be tremendously owned or anything. So I think I start with Hayton, Gunther, and then maybe, like you say, add in a Clayton Keller or Sergachev and just sort of call that my stack. I'm not playing Alex Kerfoot no matter what. And I don't think we need to dip down to the third line or anything.
No.
So on the Detroit side of the house, these are the lines we saw in practice today. Top line, Elmer Soderblom. DJ's very excited by that, I can tell.
He's the best player in the league.
Yeah, with Larkin and Raymond. Then DeBrincat, Comfort, Kane remained unaffected. Berggren, Kasper, Tarasenko, and Rasmussen, Mott, Veleno. Keep an eye on Rasmussen. He's fourth line, doesn't really matter, but he didn't practice. It sounds like he'll be good to go, but he was, I think, clearing concussion protocol. So, it shouldn't matter, shouldn't impact any of the top three lines, regardless of his status or not. So, DeBrincat, like you mentioned, has been awesome as of late. I'm actually trying to pull up the.
Yeah.
Yep,
7.1 attempts over the last 10, 8 over the last 5. So the attempts have been really good. The expected fantasy and the results have met, and he's 6,300. And like, again, last game, it was sort of like this. He's out there all the time. He's trying, but he played Carolina, and that was his one kind of bad. But that in the Minnesota game where like the two stand out, like there's a couple misses in the mix, but the rest have been smashes. So yeah, I like the play. I think you could even just one off it. I don't know if I'm going to Mo Sider. I just feel like there's better options on the slate in general, including on the other side of this game. But
yeah.
I don't think I'm entirely saying you couldn't do it if you're stacking Detroit, but I feel like that's more of a full on all the way in 4 or 5 man stack situation.
Yes. So on a 9-game slate with 18 teams, there are 13 players in the league with over 7 shot attempts per game over the last 10, and 3 of them are in this game, and that is DeBrincat, Gunther, and Keller.
Yep.
So, I certainly don't think that this game should be overlooked. Vegas total be damned. And obviously Larkin, Raymond, Soderblom just makes so much sense with the new pricing. The new guy being 2,600 just makes that line imminently affordable. It's not like we have a crazy track record on Soderblom, but he at least looks decent per minute as far as fantasy point generation. So we'll see. He's a talented big dude. We've talked about him a few times here.
And then his neck might be longer. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. This is important. His neck might be longer than Kyle Connor's. There you go. There's your. That's what you need to know. He's 6'8". Have I said that yet?
No, you haven't. Not today, at least.
Not today. Okay.
Yeah, DeBrincat is the one-off option. I don't think you're paying 6,100 for Patrick Kane. No. Maybe you could mini stack it with JT Compher, but DeBrincat 6,300 is another just great play, sort of in that 6K range. So, 3 guys definitely to keep an eye on. Some secondary options as well to consider. Next up, we have Buffalo at Tampa. We will start with the Buffalo side of things.
No thanks. I'm good.
You sure? Seems fine. Tampa's not been great defensively. They're getting goaltending, which Vasi. But hey, maybe it's the Johansson revenge spot that we've all been waiting for. Actually, I don't know if he's faced Buffalo since those comments, but in any case,
didn't he play against Columbus? Yeah, he played against Columbus. They're gonna back-to-back Jonas Johansson now.
Hey, what if?
You might as well. They're playing Buffalo. You might as well give Vasi the time off he freaking deserves. No. I mean, there's one point I'll make. I think looking at the Sabres, kind of looking at stuff, and it's that. Like we just said, you kind of can't pay for Patrick Kane at 6,100. And I think one of the players that would be like, you just play Tuck over him. Like Tuck's been so fucking good. He's cheaper. I just think that like there's better options on this slate than a guy like Patrick Kane. And there's one here, but there's also Brandon Hagel, just a few hundred more playing on a team that's actually good at hockey. So I don't know. There's options in this game that I don't dislike. I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, Tage comes down a full 1,000. Who thought that was a good idea? But I'm like sitting here, like almost convincing myself to look at the Sabres. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna have it in a lineup.
I mean, Dahlin is 5,800. Like they are just trying to entice us to play Buffalo Sabres. And if there's one thing to know about the Sabres is that they win games they should lose, and they lose games they should win. Like this is peak Buffalo time to go out, have a stinker against the Sharks, and to just absolutely demolish Tampa because Tampa's whatever. Like it's just the way it happens. You're going to get low ownership. You're going to get low prices. It's just 101 for me, like 101 type stuff. Not saying this is where I'm going necessarily, but I think to rule it out because quote it's Buffalo just sort of is sort of not understanding the dynamics of daily fantasy sports. So
no.
In any case,
daily fantasy wise, it makes sense. Mentally, I don't think I'm ever clicking buttons.
And we could still see Jason Zucker return, which would sort of throw a wrench into things. Obviously, there's trade considerations. Tuck's been in rumors. Paterka's been in rumors. Like, who the hell knows what could happen here? But at least for now, I'm pretty interested in this setup, just given the way that pricing looks and the roles that all these power play one guys are playing. Just makes perfect sense to me. And then Kulik is obviously, I think, a good option too. He's better than his last 10 games otherwise suggests. So on the Tampa front, we're guessing on what happens from here. We did get good indications that both Yanni Gord and Bjorkstrand will draw in for Tampa. They traded away 2 firsts and Isimont for the right. So I guess this would be Gage Gonsalves.
Yeah,
and we'll see if they
Gergensons.
Yes, we'll see if they end up scratching someone like a Gonsalves and whatnot, and go 12-6 or 11-7. But I'm guessing this is pretty close what the lineup looks like. Gensel, Point, Kucherov, Hagel, Sorelli, Bjorkstrand, Chafee, Paul Gord, and Gonsalves, Glendening, Gergensons.
Yep.
The power play is what I think is the most interesting part. Of course, we talked lastly about how Chafee and Radish were power play 1. They got scored on a shorty, I think, in the first period of that game, and they said, okay, we're going back to our good players. So I think it's going to be Hedman and Hagel. I would not be surprised, though, if Bjorkstrand played alongside that top unit in Hagel's stead. Basically, they need a right-handed finisher. Bjorkstrand hasn't really played on the perimeter since his Columbus days. Like in Seattle, he was mostly used in the bumper role, which obviously Tampa has Braden Point. They don't need that. But I think Bjorkstrand could fill that role. But it's not a guarantee. It's not like they got Brock Besser, who's like, oh, you can close your eyes and picture Brock Besser taking one-timers from the left half wall. Like, that's just not who Bjorkstrand has been lately. So I still think he gets there, but maybe not right away. In any case, it remains to be seen what we actually get as far as the fantasy slate is concerned, because Seattle is on the slate. Bjorkstrand is currently on Seattle. I think that means Bjorkstrand will score fantasy points, like for Tampa, like on this slate. But check. I'm not positive that what the background, the underlying DK mechanics necessary to do that, and if they're even paying attention. Who the hell knows? Are they actually paying attention to this trade? Do they find out about the trade at 7:48 when no one's getting points for Bjorkstrand? Who knows? It's anyone's guess. So we're keeping an eye on that. I'm obviously, you can probably tell by the tone of my voice and whatnot, I'm not super interested in paying 22.5K for chalk Tampa 1. That just doesn't sound like a fun time. But hey, it worked last late, so might work again here. So any Tampa thoughts, any Bjorkstrand specific thoughts?
Always loved Oliver Bjorkstrand. He brought championships back to Cleveland and then unfortunately went out to the West Coast. Back now on the East Coast in Tampa. I do agree that like eventually he could be ultra interesting, but until we know he's on the top power play, it's probably like a stackable only option with Hagel, because you're saying Hagel gets there. I'm probably not going to play this game. Don't really think it projects as a top type of game. I get why you do it for sure, that Buffalo's come down a ton in price. Tampa's not that expensive and very easily correlated. They have the good players on the power play, which is always fun. So I definitely get it. But I don't think this is a game I want to get all my exposure to, especially because I think a lot of people will be in on Tampa. So I'm looking at other games. But yeah, Buffalo, Tampa is a 6.5. Tampa is a minus 225 favorite. So again, they're going to project really well. They're going to be chalky. There's only a few chalky spots on the slate, really. Then that's certainly one of them. There's like 4 obvious on a 9-game slate. The next one I don't think is as obvious in Florida.
For the audio listeners, I should just mention that Hagel's Sorelli Bjorkstrand is only 15K because Hagel's 6,500 just makes no sense. Sorelli's 4,600 and Bjorkstrand's 3,900. So like that line I think could make some sense as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would play. I would play that line if I was going to play it at all. But yeah, we'll get over next game. Columbus, team that we talked pretty highly about going into that Tampa game. They showed some level of fight. They had a couple players that did something. Those couple players were named Zach and Werenski. The rest were around, but Zach Werenski goes for 27 bomb 2 goals, one of them unassisted, normal Zach Werenski defenseman stuff, continues to smash on a night-to-night basis. And it's just one of those things where if he's 7,200, if he's really, I'd say up to maybe even 7,500, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're playing this team, if you're playing this game because you're game stacking or whatever, like Werenski's involved. Like if you play Columbus and you don't play Werenski at this point, I think you're an idiot.
Yep. Just showing it was pretty even between Tampa and Columbus by expected goals. And this new thing has me. Yeah, the shot pressure. You see that they opened the game pretty hot, but Tampa just scored a couple immediate goals and they just coasted, Tampa did. So it happens, but I don't think it's indicative of Columbus is a joke or whatever. All that to say, though, they get a matchup with Florida now, which is no bueno, not very fun.
Nah, not good.
You mentioned, though, Werenski's, of course, always in play. 7,200 defenseman putting up what he's doing. Again, we have Cale Makar on this slate in the perfect matchup, so, probably not super, important. But if you're looking to be a little different, that's, of course, a viable way to go. Adam Fantilli continues to produce monstrous underlying numbers and still pretty decent actual fantasy outcomes. So there's probably some juice left there at 5,800. We did see Chinakhov move down to the 4th line in practice today. That makes me think that it's very possible that if Columbus is struggling again, that Fantilli, Marchenko, that Marchenko and Chinakhov will be reunited. Or Jesus, do they go Voronkov, Marchenko, Chinakhov like last year?
The Russian
now
mafia.
I'm scared. Yeah, now I'm scared because that was a fun line last year that they did. So, maybe we're scared of Adam Fantilli. Probably just not worth getting thin with Columbus. In all honesty, Florida's still a pretty tough matchup. It's not like Matthew Tkachuk is the engine that drives the bus defensively for them. So I'm not really looking to target much on the Columbus side of things. How about you?
Yeah. I know.
I should say any.
What?
No, you already talked about Columbus, so I should have transitioned us. Instead, I just stumbled right into pretending that you still had something to say.
I have nothing of value to say. Probably not playing Columbus. I am interested on the other side, the Florida Panthers. This kind of feels like one of the obvious spots that no one's going to play. And maybe it's because it just worked last time. Maybe it's because it's difficult to easily stack this Florida team that is, Reinhart, Barkov, power play 1 with Verhaeghe at 7,300, who's been great. Very expensive, tough to do. Then the Samoskevich Bennett pairing is easier to do. Like, do you throw an Ekblad? Do you throw it? It's kind of just doesn't feel as cohesive as maybe you'd like. I like both the top line and the second line a good bit. I don't think you need to get cute with this and stack anything else. I see Evan Rodriguez listed twice on your sheet here. I think that's probably just an oversight. He should be on the second line, right?
Yeah. They got someone to fill this. I don't know who though. Whatever.
Someone bad.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I like both of them a lot, and I just don't know if I'm going to go with the Samoskevich Bennett for cheap because I'm trying to get something a little bit better in there as far as an upper price stack. Or if I have the cap, I have no problem playing Reinhart, Barkov, or Hagee. I think it'll be decently reduced ownership compared to the other kind of top obvious stacks.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it several times last couple weeks, but I will just throw my hat in the ring for Bennett, Samoskevich, Reinhart. You're getting quote unquote the finisher. Reinhart's been on a bit of a. Let me look at his game logs real quick. Yeah, he's been on a bit of a dry spell. I don't think he. Yeah, I was like, I don't think he scored in a while. He has not scored since February 2nd. It's been over a month since Samson scored a goal. But he's still shooting. He's still getting points. And he's definitely still playing 20 minutes in every situation. So, Reinhart, I think, is a viable one-off. Samoskevich and Bennett, though, I mean, the minutes aren't quite as solid with Lindell and Luosterainen on that third pair. Like, they're sort of a, second line part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not as clear a top 6 role as, maybe some other teams' second lines are. but still getting 16 minutes, power play 1 against Columbus, at home alongside Sam Bennett, and even Rodriguez has been pretty bankable fantasy points wise. Like, I'm just clicking on Samoskevich. Like, I really like the player. He's not had the single blow up yet where he's hit, 25, but I certainly think that's there for him. He's shooting enough. I think he's talented enough. So does that come tonight? Well, probably not, given the loss of probability. But uh, I'm not going to be left missing out because of the value that he provides, even when he doesn't hit that mark. He can get 10, 12 points and still get there. And obviously Bennett, can have 17 shots on goal because that's just what Sam Bennett does. So that's my core there. And then you can build around it with the Reinhardts, the Ekblads. I even think Seth Jones is fine. Like, just not super concerned with Florida pieces in general at these prices.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, Erod, you kind of mentioned, and the minutes aren't fantastic, but they're about the same as Samoskevich. It's just not the top power play. And over the past 5, and this is, kind of just assuming the last 5 games, which I think we're all without Matt Tkachuk. I think it's all 5 now. 7.4 attempts per game for Evan Rodriguez. So when he gets that increased role, he'll shoot. I think he's playable. Is like, again, there's a lot of like fringely playable pieces around what you're building, but if you did just go full second line there, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
All right. Moving on from, I guess I should mention for Florida, Vitek Vanacek is on. I think he's now their backup. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong.
Probably.
If he gets to start, he's 6,800. So just keep an eye out because, again, same deal with Bjorkstrand. Like, does he actually score those fantasy points if he's listed on San Jose? I think they can change it, but keep an eye out because if it's not Bobrovsky, you're getting a cheaper Vanacek. So, all right. Winnipeg at Philly. We saw this matchup a week ago. Was it this weekend? Maybe last weekend. One of the weekends on a Saturday. Philly played Winnipeg really strong, and ended up actually winning in a shootout, I believe. So let's take a look at the actual matchup. Now Winnipeg heads into Philadelphia. Okay, now it's loading. And the rainbow chart has a relatively, I guess, mediocre outlook for this game. In large part because both teams have been pretty decent defensively, especially around the league when there's been teams actively falling apart at the seams. Just not going to name any names, but most of them are on the slate tonight. So with that in mind, Winnipeg, what are your thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets of Manitoba?
Yeah, that's where they play hockey. It's kind of one of those situations where, like I said lastly, it feels like it's a bit of a different Winnipeg team since returning from the break, and they're shooting a bit more, and the results haven't quite followed as much as I feel like they deserve. Last slate, it kind of felt like the right play that just didn't quite get the best result. Yeah, I saw it. We're going to talk about it in a minute. It's one of those things where, like, if you stacked it, you got, your 2-point night from Kyle Connor with neither of them being a goal, right? 16 is not quite enough. Shifley with just 1 assist, like, kind of felt like you stacked the right line in just the worst possible outcome type of situation. Now they go into Philly. The game doesn't look good. They just played and it wasn't good. They lost 2-1 in the shootout. I think it's just like enough recency bias maybe to keep people away from playing Winnipeg in a really good spot. I think it's totally fine because we know how efficient they can be. We know how bad the goaltending can be in Philly. Part of the reason why sometimes the numbers don't look as maybe favorable against them is because their goalies can just give up a 5 spot like nothing. So I'm interested. I think Winnipeg is sort of like on that Florida level for me of like, this is probably better than meets the eye. I just think I slightly lean Florida right now. But I definitely am interested in the matchup because, again, Kyle Connor is shooting, and that is something that was making him tough to play in DFS, where it's like, he scores, 2 goals, he has 3 shots, and you're like, well, I could still win under that scenario, but like, he's not putting up I had to have it, put the slate away, good night type of score, and like, now it kind of feels like he's on the fringe of doing that again. Your 8 shot, 2 goal, 1 assist, good night slate. See you tomorrow. Morrissey as well. Before I move too far, 9.2 attempts per game in the past 5. Connor 8.4. Like that's where I'm building through. And I'm always down to play Gabe Velarde, whether he's shooting or not. So yeah.
Okay. Just so they wound up losing to the Islanders last game. Keep in mind that Dylan Sandberg missed for personal reasons. Again, I'm projecting him to play here because I don't think we got any update on like why he missed or whatever. But if he doesn't play, I believe we've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think that's a big step down. They just don't really have someone to replace Sandberg. As odd as that sounds, like he's been their best defenseman in my opinion this year. Like just from a play driving standpoint, like it's day and night with and without him, just as far as what Neil Peon can do and sort of what the top pair has to deal with. So anyway, last game it was pretty even right down the middle, but Velarde, Scheifele, Connor had their lunch eaten by Brock Nelson and friends. So that's at least something to keep an eye on. Like, do they go to, Nick Ehlers and move Connor down to Nemestikov Perfetti or something like that? I don't think so, but it's at least in the ballpark of possibilities here. So just a little extra bit of context for you there. I'm only interested in Winnipeg if Sandberg does return. If not, I'm just going to say, you know what? Like I can live if Winnipeg's what I needed to have on Thursday night. So I don't feel obligated to add anything to what you already said. Let's get over to Philadelphia, where DJ,
Yeah.
I regret to inform you that the Michkov Slappies are doing it again on Thursday night. 4,500 for our Lord and Savior. How are you feeling about Lord Michkov and his teammates?
Yeah, 20 minutes, 17 fantasy points, an assist. That was a goal that got changed to an assist because he didn't score it, and Kateria tipped it. 6 shots on goal, Matvey Michkov, and they're like, you know what, 4,600. Let's send him down 100. There's just no sense in making him priced anywhere even close to what he should be. Yeah, no, I mean that's part of the situation where it's like you could just click on him. And then you can consider Risto if you want to. You don't have to, but you can consider him. I mean, he is doing all the stuff you'd want him to do in the minutes and shooting and blocks and whatnot. And then you just stack the other side and you just hope the game ends up being gangbusters and the goalies suck. And it's possible we won't get Hellebuck. He's played quite a bit from the tournament and the last 2 games. And they give him the night off and Eric Comrie comes in and puts up a bad game. And you're just sitting here like, winning all the money.
This is also the front end of a back-to-back for Winnipeg. They play New Jersey the following night, so very much on Eric Comrie watch here.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's just like that's how I think I'm doing it. If I'm doing it, I'm not saying I'm doing it, but that's how I do it. Little game.
And we'll keep an eye out for lines. Of course, they got hammered by Calgary, and the lines got blended. The power plays didn't though, so. Again, wherever Michkov winds up, I don't really think it matters. I'm probably just going to play him and Risto and just ignore the other forwards. But, depending on who he winds up with, you could also consider, the Konechny's, the Tippett's of the world as well. So that's about it, though. Not an exciting game. So let's head on over to Boston at Carolina. Speaking of not that exciting, the Boston Bruins, they got trounced by Nashville and just decided to fuck everything up. This Merkelov guy we talked about got sent down to the AHL. Riley Tuft called up on the second line in his stead. Pretty fun stuff there. Vinny Lettieri also got called up. Patrick Brown is now in the lineup. Sure, I guess. And Joe Nostoli also practiced as a part of the alignment in practice today. So a brand new Bruins team heads into Carolina. DJ, instant reactions on the lineup you're looking at here.
Horrendous. This team got, like we just said, bullied by Nashville. They looked, just defensively inept all night. It kind of felt like Pasternak tried for a little bit and then stopped trying, and then that line was just completely dead. And then everyone else that came over the boards was bad at hockey. Andrew Peak was just another level of bad. I felt like Lorei was trying everything he possibly could to create offense on his own because no one can play anymore. it just feels like a very dead team that is no longer worth playing. I always get playing David Pastrnak, though. He's still one of the best players in the world. But against Carolina, I just feel like you don't have to. And I know he could win any slate on any night because he is that type of player. I'm pretty sure he won a slate against Carolina earlier in the season. Like he had some, I think he had a crazy game against Carolina. But like he can do that against anybody. I mean, even in that Nashville game where I said he just didn't really look like he had it, still goes out and puts up 16 fantasy points in the game that again they got shellacked in. So it's going to be a no from me on all fronts. Not interested in any of these, players at all. I don't think there's anything interesting here. I can move on to the next team if you're ready, but whatever you got to say about the yikes Bruins.
Yeah. Riley Tufte's just not, he's not a prospect anymore. He's 26, 27. So his AHL stats look okay, but not really anything that like, oh, it's going to get better like it was for Merkelov. So pasta or nothing. Totally agree with you there. Keep an eye out for punts, the Carlos, I guess the Andrew Peaks of the world, though I don't know, probably just prefer Carlo. Against the Donkey Chucker Canes, that's very they can pick up 3 blocks without too much of a hassle. On the Carolina side, we did get confirmation last game that it was Rantanen Jarvis. However, that was not perfectly power play correlated because Jack Roslovich and Jackson Blake needed to be on the top power play. So I don't know. They didn't score on the power play, but they won. So I think this sticks. Who knows, though? It's a mess. Svechnikov and Jarvis come off the top power play for Blake and Roslovich. Very much a split power play now. But Mikko Rantanen and Sebastian Aho are 7K as 14.4 for the two of them against this Boston team that just gave up 6 to Nashville. Like, I don't know. It seems good, but also seems bad. So, DJ, what are your thoughts on Carolina?
I mean, I feel like Carolina is the team that it feels like it should always be just an obvious line one, easy money. Look at the rest of this lineup team and just, I mean, the goals come from everywhere. I don't know. And like, you can't even say like, oh, well, Jackson Blake and Roslovic, is that like good, cheap action? Like, well, A, they're not correlated. B, Roslovich played like 9 minutes with power play 1, and there's just better options on this slate. Like, I guess I could squint and see how you click on Jackson Blake as a one-off, like if that is something that you absolutely have to do at 3,300, but I don't think you do on this, in general. Is he a center? Where the heck is this guy?
No, he's 3,300.
Oh, no, he's 3,300 wing. Like he kind of feels like he might shoot the puck sometimes. Maybe he does. He's getting minutes. There's an option. I just think I'm not going to do it. I feel like a lot of people won't do it again, and I think Boston is dust. Is the only thing that brings me back to Rantanen Aho. Maybe you do Rantanen Aho, Blake. I don't know. That's like the only thing I could think of, and I feel like I'm going to keep coming back to it and thinking about it again. And right now, I feel just gross and angry and sad, and I don't like it at all. But then tomorrow, I'm going to be like, man, Boston sucks. Maybe I think no, and then like the card's going to turn over, and I'm going to get a combined 14.8 from Rantanen Aho and Blake. I'm going to say, why did I do that? What was the point? I just watched Chatfield score from Stahl and Martinuk, and then I watched Eric Robinson from Yost, and they win 3-0, and I'm just like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, I will just. I mean, Roslovich minutes are going to be tough to come by, but per minute he's at 7 shots per 60. I mean, that's better than Rantanen, Aho. Jackson Blake is at 6.4, so it's not like crazy different, but that's lower than Rantanen and Aho. So I don't know if we really think Blake's gonna be like the guy people click on. I don't think Roslovich is all that different of a play, especially because we know this Carolina team will just jumble their lines at a moment's notice. And Roslovich has a long history of being a legitimate offensive weapon and also a legitimate shot producer. Yeah. So like, it's not like we're betting into an unknown here with Roslo versus Blake. We're betting in the more upside for sure. but also a little bit less certainty on like what he actually looks like as an NHLer, and I think substantially more ownership. So we'll keep tabs on that, though. I don't think it's an especially important thing to figure out before locking in our lineups here. But if you're interested in Carolina, something to consider at the very least. We'll just throw in there Gostisbehere for 4K. Remains a high upside, low floor defense option with his top power play billing. So Seattle and Nashville.
Were they home or?
Oh.
Were they in Detroit? I was gonna say I looked at what the defensive pairings like they kind of ran where they were in Detroit, but it was almost as much as you could possibly handle of Burns and Slavin with Jarvis, Rantanen, and Aho. Gostisbehere was mainly out there with the Blake Hall line and Kotkaniemi. I'm not sure how much that's six, but Carolina, like every time you look at it, it kind of feels like they have a plan with what D pairs play with who. But it does change
at home.
From time to time.
At home, it tends to be Slavin and Burns with Stahl as the matchup line.
Yeah.
So.
But who are you? I mean, they're going to match him up against Pastrnak. So yeah, I don't know. It might not matter. You're right. Maybe there's better.
Riley Tufte, man, watch out. Elias Lindholm might refine his game, and watch out.
Seconds away. It's a revenge game.
It is. It's a big time revenge game. Elias Lindholm left Carolina and ceased being good. So
tough break. We have a game that again we have to talk about legally obligated to, but if you just
it is in my contract.
Seattle, Nashville, and you just said I'm good, you're probably fine. I think there's a couple of notes to at least cover here, but it's a 5.5. Nashville is a favorite. You're covering them by just saying but the answer is probably Shane Wright. It's like he really is starting to look like a dang good hockey player. Maybe the quietest 37 point in 59 game. I know that's not revolutionary, but like, it just kind of feels like it's all happening all at once.
Might as well be.
Yeah, and on this team, it might as well be. Like, and it's like he just seems to actually be a dynamic player in the making, and you love to see it. And at that price, it's like this is where you buy in a guy that is not only I can score a goal on 2 shots in 11 minutes at minimum salary, but a guy that I actually think is starting to come into a slate breaker type of player because of what we know his finishing ability is. So yeah, I'm interested here. Nashville is terrible, and you're trying to fix the power play still. How do you feel?
So we're guessing on how they replace Bjorkstrand and Gord, obviously, but I think the top 3 lines are pretty simple because I think they just stay the way they were. Kakko, Benier, Schwartz, Burakovsky, Wright, McCann, and Jordan Eberle, who returned in sort of this mismatched 4th line role, just slides in alongside Stevenson and Tolvanen to fill Bjorkstrand's slot. Last game on the power play, we saw Beniers, Schwartz, Eberle, Montour, McCann as the top unit, though, the unit that actually scored with the good player, Shane Wright, Stevenson, Bjorkstrand, Dunn, Kakko. I think it makes perfect sense that Eli Tolvanen finally gets a power play job now. Maybe it's Burakovsky, but I don't know. Tolvanen's been pretty good. He's been a player we've liked for a long time. Ultimate revenge spot back in Nashville. I'm feeling like this is kind of a fun one. I'm desperately hoping that Tolvanen and Wright and they get together. Maybe even Tolvanen, Wright, McCann. Like, good Lord, just inject me with all the heroin if that happens. Like, I will be going to absolute town on them.
What?
Because the 4th line is just going to have a bunch of nobodies. I mean, Isimont probably is able to play given the travel from Tampa to Nashville is not that strenuous. So 4th line of like Tanev, Isimont, and the Mitchell Stevens, or they called up Jacob Melanson, I think I saw. So I just plugged his name in, but who cares? Doesn't matter. This 4th line's not going to play much is my point. So a lot of time to spend talking about Seattle, but I do think there are some interesting pieces at these prices. Just really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So my favorite would be Shane Wright, though McCann would be a close second, and then Montour is also very much in play. On the Nashville side, they just scored 6 goals. So like you said, we are legally obligated to talk about them.
Yes.
Without a power play.
Without a single power play, I will also add that. I mean, like, so you're sitting there thinking, oh, Boston must have no. Boston got dismantled by a team that legitimately their players were saying are unable to score goals only at 5-on-5. And that one of those players is now gone. I guess.
Yes, they traded Tommy Novak, who was centering Forsberg and Marchessault last night. And they were like, hey, yeah, we want an injured.
Luke Shen. No, Luke Shen's the one that said they couldn't score, and he's traded.
That is true.
Not that you were playing Luke Shen, but maybe you were. I don't know.
He gets to go to Pittsburgh, where they famously score a lot. So.
Yeah, they score a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't even been able to wrap my head around that trade. I don't really understand it, but like
one of the most confusing trades I've seen ever. I put that up there.
And what is Nashville going to do with a Michael Bunting? He's not even playing. So like, they're getting a head start on reload. Next year. Like, okay,
yeah, good for them.
Anyway, that means Evangelista, O'Reilly, Stamkos should remain in place. O'Reilly, Stamkos, both top power play. Evangelista 3,800. That line 16K. Great, cool. Well, Forsberg and Marchessault now don't have a center. I think it has to be Colton Sissons. Like, that line is now 16.8 when you plug that in.
Tough draw.
Cool. And then it sounds like we're getting LaRue back because they sent down, like they traded away Novak and they sent down fuck it, I don't care who. They sent down someone, and it makes it sound like Zach LaRue is back in the lineup for them after injury. So like Svechkov, LaRue, and whoever else, and then Cole Smith, Jankowski, McCarron. I mean, this top six is going to play a ton. Seattle's not any good. Nashville's not any good. How about a hee-haw hoedown in Nashville and just game stack, the Forsbergs, the McCanns, the good players, and just get fantasy points? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main takeaway I have right now is that you've given two amazing league names for tomorrow with doing all of the heroin and the hee-haw hoedown. I mean, that is, I don't know. I couldn't pick. I'm glad I don't have to because I don't know what I would select. Yeah, I feel like I'm just not going to play this game and be better off for it because it's going to just be stupidly annoying and nothing's going to make sense. I think that Shane Wright is still very interesting, but I have to see what Nashville does tomorrow in practice before I actually move forward.
Yeah,
is Bunting even? Yeah, Bunting's not even on the slate.
No, he has an appendectomy, so like he's out for the next couple weeks. So
they sent down I think, Bellows, by the way.
That's right. That's what it was. Down. And we're on Kemmel watch for sure at this point. So we're keeping a close eye out for that. He's the minimum salary here.
Every day that like it's the only reason I look. Only reason I look at Nashville is to see if they called up Kemmel. I mean, like this was the guy, and I think, of course, it hasn't really bared out. No, but like this is the guy I was like, someone's going to get this guy, and he's going to have a 30-goal season. And of course, he hasn't cracked the league really yet.
He was drafted 2 years or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for.
No. I'm saying it's not likely that he would have already done it at this point.
Yeah. No, I know, and I know that. I'm not saying like it's either way. Really, it's like you kind of want to see a little bit of run in the NHL. But again, like if there's any team that drafts you and you're a goal scorer. And you should be in immediate fear. It's Nashville because they just will never give you any run. And then at 23, they'll just waive you and let you go to Seattle and then have a revenge game spot on the other side. But no, I really do think this is like a pretty shooting, scoring, playmaking prospect. He might not be great defensively, but at this point, if you're Nashville, like what the hell are you doing? Just call the guy up, give him a chance. Let's see if he can score at the NHL level.
Yep, indexed for shots and points. He's well above average. It doesn't look like he's reached his draft year production in the Liga even last year, but he came over to the AHL and he's been doing just fine there. So absolutely no problems. If he plays, if he gets called up and whatnot, absolutely interested in him at the dead minimum as just a filler option. And certainly if he goes in the top six, again, I don't think he plays center, so tough to figure out like what to actually do about centers, but if he somehow gets alongside Forsberg or Stamkos, like that's all wheels up for me. All right, Calgary and Dallas. I mean, Calgary put the boots to Philly. I mean, that was Sam Ersson just forgetting how to hockey for a bit and just leaving the game. So I don't know. I guess. Oh, I didn't show this for the last couple of games, but both Carolina and Nashville have very solid rainbow matchups. Given both their offense and their opposition's defense over the last 10. Nashville's matchup actually looks really solid from a goals perspective too, which is very scary because we know what betting on Nashville to score goals will do. Anyway, Calgary and Dallas, pretty interesting that Dallas just been super up tempo as of late. I mean, we saw this even in that New Jersey game. Dallas got a big lead and then just kind of tried to sit on it, but they just don't have the horses to sit on a lead. So New Jersey just came flying back and tied it up before Thomas Harley's heroics. I think there were 4 seconds on the clock when he scored the game winner, which really, I mean, New Jersey's not on the slate, but absolutely just ripped the hearts out of the Devils. I mean, they lost Dougie in that game week to week. Jack Hughes is confirmed out for the year due to shoulder injury, and that goal against, I mean, God, Dallas just ended New Jersey season, I feel like. But anyway, this matchup, Dallas, Calgary, obviously going to lean toward the Dallas side, but just showing that the matchup looks okay for Calgary too. DJ, any thoughts on the Flames?
No, it's going to be a no for me on playing the Flames. And it's really not because I'm afraid of the matchup as much as I just don't. I'm just not paying for Kadri, and there's really nothing else worth playing here. Like, and that's the only option is Kadri. Other than that, well, I mean, I'm again Uyghur, I guess, but like, nah.
Well said. Where do you go? Who knows? If not Kadri, then who? And I mean, Coronado's on the fourth line. Like, just whatever. Just no, thank you. You're right. For Dallas, Logan Stankoven, I guess, did something bad in the first period because he almost immediately got moved off the top line. Maverick Bourque took his spot in the top line. So, like, RIP to a real one in Stankoven. But, if he did anything, I'm probably, top 5 of the Barn Bash yesterday. But not his fault because apparently, he Mitchkov did, I guess, and got demoted. So, Hintz, Robertson, Bourque, Marchment, Duchesne, Granlund, Ben Johnston, Dodonov, Wyatt continues his amazing run. J-Rob continues to crush it. Rupe Hintz has been a revelation the last handful of games. Not just the shot attempt numbers, but also the quality scoring chance numbers have been just unbelievable for him. He's got 10 points in 3 games. Like, he's just crushing it right now. Their power play is lethal. 6 of those points are on the power play. So DJ, where do you rank Dallas among the rest of the slate as far as their top end guys are concerned?
They're fine. I don't know. It kind of feels like 5.5 minus 238 favorites at home against the Flames. I mean, it's just Wyatt Johnston's just dominating. He's been so good. You really want to chase all those points as his price has climbed 500 without really any good quality correlation that you feel good about. Not really. Do I want to go back to the Robertson Hintz line with Maverick Bourque? Maybe that's fine. Do I just like getting different with Duchesne, who is so involved on that top power play? Yeah, I mean, Granlund hasn't done any. Like, I know it feels like everyone in the hockey world is like, oh, what a great trade Granlund was. Like, he's going to be so helpful. And it's like, well, he doesn't do anything in fantasy. So you could just cross him off the list. You could just play Duchesne and Harley and like maybe Mason Marchment for some cheap, decent upside. It kind of feels like everything's fine, but nothing stands out as like the obvious play. It's probably just J-Rob and Hintz and Harley is probably the answer. Or maybe you just stack the power play and say that the Flames are frauds, and because they are, but nothing feels perfect. I like a good perfect feeling.
Yes, DJ is always chasing perfection out here, which is why we hold the Moinscape podcast to such high standards. All right, I will just go to the mat with 6K Thomas Harley, and if he hurts me, he hurts me. But Thomas Harley generally has not hurt me, so I consider me in on the Dallas Power Play 1 experience once again. So we can move on. 2 more games. Montreal and Edmonton is next up. Edmonton getting laughed out of the building against Anaheim. Close Marco. He says mood's a millionaire now after Anaheim 3. Unfortunately, I'm a coward and didn't play them on the main slate. I played idiots like, I don't know, Matvey Michkov instead of the guys who got 3 points in a period. Matt Michkov only managed to get like 17. What a loser. But I did clean up on the late slate as a result, so that's cool. On the Montreal side of things, we saw them beat up on Buffalo Monday night. Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky. They are priced up at 17.9K, which doesn't feel great to me. New Hook, Beck, Line. Beck just hasn't done much of anything on the second line. He's not really getting the ice time that you'd expect a second liner to get. So I think we're in for a world of hurt here if trying to chase those Anaheim points, if I'm being honest. But any interest in Montreal here?
No, I tend to agree. It feels like a fish trap type of play. They've gotten priced up. They've been really good. Edmonton just gives up 6 on a 2.2 expected goals on some bad bounces and some, and out of just good plays from Anaheim playing hard, and people might actually go back to that well, like you're saying. The top pair for Anaheim, I believe, were they a +4 in Lacombe and Gudis? I think they were plus something crazy too.
He was a +5, I think. Lacombe
so
was
like +5. So the unfortunate reality for Montreal is they don't have Jackson Lacombe. Tough. Yeah, you're not going to probably have the same success without him. So yeah, not going to do it.
Yeah, you said the phrase "fish trap," and my head went to the SpongeBob episode where Squidward moves into the pineapple and the rock, and they think their house has been sold, and he claims that there's the fish traps live there, and so SpongeBob and Patrick can't move back in. So if you want to know why I've not been paying attention for the last 2 minutes, I was trying to find a picture of the fish trap children, but I came up empty because I don't know. Anyway, can we just move on? Or was there anything you were asking me?
Yeah.
All right.
No. That we could go to Edmonton. I don't think. Did we get a practice today? I tried to look quickly, but I didn't
we
see
got a
anything.
practice. This is the update from practice. The boys been sent down to the AHL. Reminder that some of these transactions are just on paper ones, because if a player's on the AHL roster on Friday, I think it's like 1 a.m. Friday, they're eligible to play in the AHL playoffs. So of course, they want Savoy to be able to play in one of the two leagues, whether it's the NHL or AHL. I think that means he's out Thursday night, but might not be a long-term thing. But with that, Arvidsson, Draisaitl, Podkolzin is reunited. They kept RNH, McDavid, Hyman. Of course, that line got detonated the second that Anaheim went up 4-1. So buyer beware there. And then down the lineup looks the exact same. Interesting note: Matthias Ekholm is likely to miss this game. They talked a lot about how he just hasn't been right since the Four Nations, and sounds like he's dealing with something, be it illness or injury, and he's doubtful to play on Thursday. Of course, that does mean that the second pair takes a hit. Kulak, Emberson, Stetcher, Klingberg, not necessarily the greatest options. So I don't know if that makes me feel any different about Leon Draisaitl. It's not like Darnell Nurse and Emberson is better, is it? Maybe it's worse than Kulak, Emberson. I don't know. But Bouchard and McDavid get all the minutes together because life's not fair. I'll just say it again. If you are playing Edmonton and not playing Draisaitl, you're a total fish. But hey, Edmonton won against Montreal is less than $20,000. So what am I to tell you what to do with your money?
Yeah, they scored both their goals in the power play. It was McDavid. It was Draisaitl. It's your classic stuff. Like I have absolutely zero issue playing McDavid and Draisaitl together on this slate. There's a decent bit of value. We already talked about some very, very good value, some of it being value that isn't punts, but there's also punts that we've mentioned that are playable. So like, I think you could just do that and not overthink this too much. Wouldn't fault you for it against a Montreal team that I have faded quite often. I do think that they'll be somewhat popular, but not as popular as Tampa, or not as popular as the last team in the last game, the nightcapper of Colorado and San Jose. But is there anything else you want to mention here on this Edmonton side?
No.
Good.
Yeah, nothing. All right. San Jose, the train comes rolling through Colorado, taking wins off of both Toronto and Buffalo the last 2 nights here. So third game in 4 nights. They've been playing some good hockey, though. I mean, you look at both offensively and defensively, San Jose's been very competitive. It's hard to take too much issue with what they've been up to. Eklund, Wenberg, Toffoli is how they started and finished against Buffalo. So, keep that in mind. Will Smith, Celebrini, and Zetterlund was the Celebrini line. So I guess that's a major upgrade for Will Smith. Maybe not from like a shots perspective, but from a production standpoint, he's still on the top power play. He's the right-handed trigger right now. Like Toffoli's net front, and Will Smith is like the perimeter guy. He doesn't quite shoot as much to my liking. That's why he's listed at like even money for 1.5. So I'm certainly biased in watching him play, but he's not really taking one-timers necessarily. But that is an interesting combination. Him and Celebrini, of course, haven't spent too much time together. So very interested to see how quickly they get up to speed and, generate some chemistry. Beyond that, Jake Wallman is the only defenseman of real note because he's power play 1 and rocks for fantasy. But honestly, down the lineup, I mean, there's a couple viable options. Ferraro plays an absolute boatload. Liljegren has been productive. And even, the Luke Cunnin, Nico Sturms of the world, like, you're probably not doing it, but on late slates, on showdown slates, they're going to get some minutes and they can block a puck or two. San Jose's not a high up interest level of mine, but it's certainly interesting because they've been very good lately. So DJ, what are your thoughts here?
I think in perpetuity, I will always take a look at Shakir Mahakamadulin. I just think he's actually a very gifted fantasy asset at defense. He got 23 minutes, but 0 of those minutes were on the top power play, which is not what I was hoping for. Other than that, not a lot to add.
Can you say that name again for us here?
Mahakamadulin?
Okay. I thought I heard that. You kind of added a random A in there, but...
Yeah, I think I added an extra syllable, but that's par for the course. If I don't add an extra syllable, I didn't actually say anyone's name.
I mean, but the reason I was actually surprised you almost said it. Like, it sounded better than I thought you might put it, I guess, was my surprise.
I feel like I've actively told everybody that I loved his game. Like, he seemed like a prospect that actually had... I added like a Mahakamadulin.
Yes, precisely.
You're correct again, as usual.
Anyway, the most interesting thing here, I think, is goaltending because they traded Vitek Vanacek. I've honestly not checked in on what Askarov is up to. Did he stay healthy? I have no idea. So I don't know who their backup is. But it seems like if Askarov gets called up, he's the dead minimum. So that's pretty cool. Again, just another, maybe we get our hearts ripped out when like Tristan Jarry doesn't start last game. Maybe it's the same thing, but at least keep an eye on it because Askarov is hella fun. And if you like goalie goals, he's the guy who goes for them. So let's get over to Colorado, though. We're, of course, the stars of the show here. The perfect matchup for all these idiots. McKinnon, 9,500. Marty Nachos got his role vanished last game. I thought it was interesting. Turns out he was just dealing with a bout of nausea, be that food poisoning or illness, I'm not sure. But it didn't sound like there were any long term implications of it. So I guess keep an eye out if there's any indication that he's sick. Maybe the same thing happens. And at 7,600, that probably matters. Like if there's a chance he falls down the lineup, like that's a big deal. But I don't think there's anything to what we saw last game. Lehkonen continued to be relatively productive, but this top line, 23.7K. San Jose has been playing better. I think I'm just going to live dangerously and fade Colorado once again in a good matchup at home. But DJ, what are your thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche?
I really, really want to click the buttons. Dangerously bad. I think this is the question. I feel like it's not, are you going to click the buttons or you're not going to click the buttons? Are they a good player? Are they a bad player? They're a good play, right? I'm going to ask you this, okay? This is the question that I'm really dealing with here. You're playing, let's just say you're living in this scenario where you're playing Nathan MacKinnon. He is 9,500. It is obviously a good matchup against San Jose. I know they've played well, but it is, like you said, it is a 3 in the last 4 trap type situation, not a fish trap like we already mentioned, but it is a trap situation. You simply cannot play MacKinnon, Lehkonen, Nachos, and Makar. I honestly don't even know, unless there is a $6,500 goalie or like something like that, and you're just complete punting the last 4 spots. So let's just say you're playing MacKinnon. How are you playing it?
I guess with Makar and Nachos. Like I think you want to play at least 2 of these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you almost have to. Yeah.
I think you want to play MacKinnon as a one-off or in a full stack. I don't know about a mini stack. That doesn't feel great to me. Like, I think with mini stacks, I'd rather just take a one-off of Pasta or something like that, where you're getting much lower ownership and you're getting like a superstar. Like additionally, like you can get Pasternak and Draisaitl for MacKinnon Nachos prices. Like that's sort of where my head goes. I don't think that's exactly matching, but it's pretty close. Like, and I think that's sort of where my head goes. But if you do a 3-man stack or you just play a one-off MacKinnon, like that, yeah, those are both, I think, great options.
Yeah. I mean, MacKinnon's going to need to put up his, 40 something bomb to put the slate away. I don't know. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of comfy stacks to play on this slate. And Colorado is not as comfy because they get the huge price increase against San Jose. Obviously, like if you're just listening to this, you're going to say, oh, like you're saying that's stupid. Obviously, they're an easy click. They're an easy click, but then you can't afford anything around them at all. Like they're clearly very priced up in this matchup. So it's not as comfortable. And I think that'll push people towards some of these stacks that are good plays, highly correlated in matchups that are fine. Instead of saying like I really don't think this is going to be as chalky as like an Edmonton or definitely not a Tampa. So I'm interested in how I would play it if I play it because it's going to be challenging. I don't know. I feel like I just said that 7 times in 7 different ways, but I believe it, so it's true. Show me what you
got. I kind of feel like this gets piled on, but anyway, I was just going to show that I mentioned last slate that I didn't think that with the new acquisitions that the minutes would be as skewed as we might expect, because before we saw guys on the 4th line getting literally 4 or 5 minutes. MacKinnon only played 21 minutes in a game that was close until the absolute very end. So I think we need to dock MacKinnon projections that are based on previous production by a decent amount. Again, does that make him a bad play? No, but like I'm just at this point, you people know me. I'm just rarely, if ever, playing Nate MacKinnon on main slates with lots of options. I just don't. I'm just not there. I'm not there that he's worth this money and that he's a better option than all these other idiots across the NHL who I just think are better scorers, better finishers. That whole thing. So, this to me feels like another perfect storm of fading, but hey, all I do is give the information, do with it what you will.
Yeah.
Anything else before we get to top stacks?
No. I mean, my slate overview, as I always do and I've never missed, is that the slate is It's not as easy. And it feels like there's a lot of good games. And I feel like at the end of the day, I really want to play Colorado, but I'm going to end up with like a Utah Detroit game stack because it's going to be so much easier to click on. And I think Colorado's going to end up coming in less owned because of how expensive it is. And like, you just can't afford another stack that you're going to want. So yeah, I'm interested. So yeah, top stacks. Why don't you go first? Because I feel like I keep taking the first top stack, and you know what? I'm gonna let you get the first top stack, and then I am gonna pull up the guaranteed goal stuff beforehand, so I'm not doing that while I'm figuring out a bunch of other stuff.
We're talking top stacks, huh?
That's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about stacks that people would want to maybe play, not the ones that are
the
bad.
stacks on the top. Okay. I'm gonna go with Dallas. Let's go Hintz, Robertson, Thomas Harley. The choo-choo train keeps coming. Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, okay. I thought there was gonna be like another line after that, and then you just stopped. I thought like you were gonna say like it's gonna keep coming and the goals, or I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to give off top stacks now. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to write me down for the Samoskevich, Bennett, Rodriguez line. I think you're gonna have to put me down for that. I think that's where I'm currently sitting. I'm trying to see if that and Colorado won. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. That and Colorado won. I'm just gonna leave off McCarr for now. I'll figure out defense later. Like that's what I want to build. Am I going to be able to afford it? Not really. I don't think. And that's too many wings. Oh no, it's not. I just clicked on Nerdushkin by accident. So
right,
this is what I want to build in this world.
Yeah, and then my second one, I'm gonna take Utah. Peyton, Gunther, and Sergachev. I just don't understand the prices. Peyton, 4,400, has been monstrously productive. Gunther, of course, and for some reason Sergachev is now sub 5K. I mean, what's a guy got to do to be priced alongside actual good players? I don't know. But I think Utah is dramatically underpriced. I think the Detroit walls are crumbling, and I don't think the Utah flock is out in full force right now. I could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see the piling on that we've seen maybe in recent weeks of Utah.
Okay, that is where we get to guaranteed goals. One revenge narrative that we didn't mention, I've mentioned it many times, is that there's a player on this slate that is in an unbelievable spot. Very, I would say, frankly, too cheap at his price at 6,500 in a revenge spot. Brandon Hagel, who was not even given an offer by the Sabres who drafted him. So give me Hagel. Absolute. I mean, that's just a stone cold obvious. He scored your goal. Don't even have to double that. You could just bet that one and you're good. But Matt, you have to also guarantee goals. I'm sorry for taking the best one.
Okay. Guaranteed goal number one. Let's do Jack Roslovic. Let's get spicy. That is 3,200. By the way.
Yeah, I know. No, it's yuck for not because I was ever going to consider it. It's yuck because it's yuck. 4,500. There's so many good players. I could take Arvidsson. I could Slavin. Oh, Michkov. Okay.
Cool.
Hagel Michkov.
DJ officially cares about goalies. I think that's what he's saying. Eric Comrie, bad. Connor Hellebuck, good. Therefore,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying these are the best options that are going to score goals on the slate, and you're not. Like, I feel like you're mad because you took Roslovic and I took Michkov and Hagel, and you're like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
You think I'm mad?
I get to take Philip Forsberg.
I get to take Philip Forsberg. I mean, Philip Forsberg at home against Seattle. He doesn't need a center. I could be playing center tomorrow, and Philip Forsberg would be scoring a goal against the Seattle Kraken, who just traded away two beloved locker room members in Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gord.
of all of the okay. You do all this work to get all that extra room, pick from a number of players, and you take a player, not a good player, a bad player. No, I'm just kidding. Forsberg's fine. I'm just mad. I don't know why I'm mad about your picks, but I'm mad about your picks. Like, why go all the way down to the dumpsters of a guy that played 9 minutes last game on the fourth line if you're only going to get a guy in a 5.5 with a center that could be made up?
Do you not like Philip Forsberg, DJ?
No, I like him.
I'm gonna need to hear you say it. I'm gonna need to hear you say it.
Okay, I like Philip Forsberg. I don't like Roslovic. I really don't. Okay.
Well,
what are you
next time you find a guy for 3,200 on the top power play, you let me know.
There might be, but I'm actually not going to look right now. I feel like there was another really cheap power play one guy that I don't know. Is this good content for me to look for it right now? Probably not. We should probably just get out of here, move on, go to bed, wake up tomorrow, bet on 9 minutes of Roslovic.
Okay.
Is it Roslovic or Vich? I think it should be Vich.
I think it's Vich, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I heard you say Roslovic, and I was like, I've never heard. Am I stupid? No, Roslovic. Okay.
I don't know.
I think I just one of my headphones went out, and I honestly I can barely hear you.
DJ, he doesn't play a lot when he's on the ice, so you never really hear his name on the broadcast.
You don't. He only scores goals when you say he scores goals.
All right.
Okay.
The official Towley review from last show was he mentioned his favorite ongoing bit, so I'm just going to read this out for the people who aren't in the Discord because I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it actually had something to do with what happened last Slate. So DJ, and this guy inserts 6 syllables for a 2-syllable last name, is now playing on the third line. Nobody's ever heard of him. Moods, no DJ, you don't understand. This guy is an elite prospect. Ryan Lambert will love that one. He had great rates during his age 14 year for a club in Minnetonka and was ranked 743 on the Prodman 5000 back in 2021. I'm definitely interested in this line. And that is the exact conversation that led us to Sam Colangelo night on Anaheim 3. Yeah, so shout out to Towley there. And he gave his recap for this slate. So official review, the boys giving off horny teenager vibes, imagining what a college party is like. Boy, I'm still imagining what a college party is like. I don't know that I ever attended any. I was playing video games, sir. I went to a commuter school. Yeah, what are you going to do? Hang out with people? No.
To be fair to me, I went to many, and sometimes they were just up here at my house when we didn't want to have them. So
that is true.
Sometimes I was forced. Sometimes it'd be like, yeah.
It was there would
the entire hockey team just showed up. Who invited them? Nobody.
No, there would be college parties during the podcast. So, that did happen many a time. Anyway, the follow-up to that, Moods injecting heroin while pronouncing he will be going to town on them. DJ distracted by Pittsburgh, quote, where they famously score a lot. I mean, DJ, I think we nailed it. I think we gave the people exactly what they came for. Once again.
Yep. We got a 7.8 out of 10 on this one on the DJ review scale. Much better than last time. We're making our way. A lot of room for improvement. Most of that comes from talking way too long about Seattle Nashville after saying this game sucks and then going over in a 45-minute review of why you could play like 2 players that suck. And then Shane Wright, who's good.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we did do that. Okay, so again, weekend plan, not sure, but stay tuned to Twitter and the Discord. Twitter's at OneEscapePod. I'm at Fake Moods. DJ's at DJMitchell94. And I've made substantial progress on the Zamboni sim. I'm currently looking at a CSV of 500 sims of a random contest, or not a random playoff from last year, and how they transpired. I'll be working to try and get those into a format that I can review and sort of go to town on lineup construction and stacking construction and all that good stuff for the underdog Zamboni streets. So hold tight. I'm coming. I'm going to be there for you. But yeah, for now, that is my top priority. So again, no write-up for the Friday slate, but we'll be back to those before you know it. DJ, anything you want to plug here or mention?
No, just have a good Thursday. I have to go do stuff on Saturday, so there's definitely gonna be no show.
Great.
Yeah, unless if you want to do it from my car.
Okay. All right. That'll do it for us. Thank you all for hanging out here on a Wednesday evening. Best of luck on Thursday. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see you.